And I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be this morning. It's a very commemorative morning and one that we should all celebrate. And for those of us that are too young to know about what happened July 2nd back in the 50s, then this will be an education for you. For those of us who were there for the struggle, this will just be a reminder. And for those of us that have just lived it and maybe have gone on, they're looking down to see that we recognize the struggle. Amen? Let us begin. 50 years ago today, the U.S. Senate passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and this landmark piece of legislation changed American history. It prohibited discrimination in public places, enforced integration of schools and other public facilities, and it banned discriminatory practices in employment. As the late Dr. Maya Angelou said, we all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color.
We all remember that for too long, this nation lived with the evil of racism, of bigotry and violence. From Alabama to Mississippi to Florida, prejudice and hatred haunted the very soul of our nation. By the 1960s, times were finally beginning to change. In 1964, led by the fearless coalition of African American clergy, bold political leaders, and courageous students of all races and creeds, we shattered the grip of segregation. During that summer of freedom, the final fight for one person, one vote was fought and was won. And from that time forward, classroom doors have been opened to all of America's children. Today, we remember the struggle and the violence of that long summer of 1964. When we engage in voter registration, when we engage in meaningful political discord, and with every single vote we cast, we honor the memory and the sacrifice of the legendary civil rights leaders. Here at home, we're honored to remember our own local heroes. Dr. William Monroe Wells, founder and namesake of the Wells-built Hotel, which is now a beloved museum in Orlando. Thurgood Marshall, who traveled to Central Florida numerous times as a young NAACP lawyer and went on to become America's first Black Supreme Court Justice. Harry and Harriet Moore, who paid the ultimate sacrifice when they were murdered during a firebombing at their home on Christmas night more than 60 years ago. And of course, right here in Orange County, July Perry, a prosperous farmer in Ocoee, murdered along with so many others who fought for the right to vote. To each of these heroes, and to the many, many more unnamed freedom fighters, we salute their journey and their fight for freedom. And we pledge to fight prejudice and injustice wherever we find it. We know that work remains, that each of us must be vigilant in standing up and speaking out against injustice. In commemoration of today's ceremony, and to keep the memory of Freedom Summer alive, I have assembled a group of people whom I'll call on from time to time as issues arise to strengthen and unite our community. Will the Civil Rights Committee members please stand and be recognized? Thank you for your service. Thank you for lending your heart and your soul to this most important community effort. And now it is my privilege to present a proclamation in honor of today's celebration. Whereas our nation's Declaration of Independence, written and adopted in 1776, states that all men are created equal and are granted unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas it was not until July 2nd, 1964, that equality of rights and guarantees of equal citizenship for all became codified by the passage of the Civil Rights Act. And whereas 2014 marks the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson to protect the right to vote and to prohibit discrimination of all kinds based on race, color, religion, and national origin. And whereas the United States of America is profoundly a better place because of the many sacrifices made by countless Americans, including our own local pioneers who bravely fought against discrimination and in some cases paid the ultimate sacrifice for freedom and equality. And whereas it is important that our journey towards a more perfect union continues, we reflect with gratitude upon a half-century of progress to share the history of the courage and commitment necessary to attain it, and to dedicate ourselves to working for an even brighter future for all citizens of the United States, built on the principles of fairness, of justice, and of equality and opportunity for all. Now, therefore, I, Teresa Jacobs, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Orange County Mayor, do hereby proclaim today, Tuesday, July 2nd, 2014, as the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act in Orange County, Florida, and encourage all citizens of Orange County to join me in celebrating and commemorating the precious legacy of this historic legislation, and to be always mindful of our continuing responsibility to ensure equal opportunity and access for all Americans. Done and ordered this second day of July 2014, and signed by all members of the Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning. On the occasion of this 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it is powerful that we are all gathered here on July 2nd, 2014. On behalf of the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center of Florida, we are honored you are here to be part of this community-wide celebration. We thank Mayor Teresa Jacobs, the Orange County Office of Public Engagement and African American Affairs, and the Orange County Regional History Center for this anniversary commemoration. I hope you will join the Holocaust Center and our partners in the community for a series of programs this fall that will prompt us to remember and continue working together. Each of the programs, including performances, exhibits, films, presentations, will tell a part of the story that led to the Civil Rights Movement and the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. All of these community events, we have a new website, can be found at www.centralfloridacivil.org. The Holocaust Center is honored to be able to provide leadership in this collaborative effort to commemorate and celebrate this historic passage, educate on the history of the Civil Rights Act, and motivate action so we all do our part to ensure the ideals continue. When I think about action, I am reminded of a quote by Fannie Lou Hamer, a civil rights and voting rights activist. She said, "Nobody's free until everybody's free." I say the work continues. Thank you.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. The Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, as the nation approached the third year of a bloody civil war, was dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal and henceforth shall be free. But Jim Crow laws and the United States Supreme Court rulings did not help the matter. So, separate but equal became the law of the land. The nation began to engage in a war struggle for civil rights. There were many marches, sit-ins, sermons, petitions, demonstrations, and a loss of many lives. And as the attempt to rid the country of segregation based on the grounds of race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Lyndon Baines Johnson has been credited with being the most important figure in the civil rights movement. Some believe Johnson was merely a politician who used the civil rights issue as he realized the worth of the black vote. However, Johnson himself, who claimed to be an idealist dream of making America a great society. He signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Leading up to the signing of these two nation-changing procedures were events that changed the course of history, specifically the March on Washington on August the 28th, 1963. I am proud that on that day, I was present when Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech, "I Have a Dream." Over 250,000 people came from all over the country by all means of transportation to our nation's capital to fight for jobs and freedom. This march was also dedicated to the proposition that all men and women are created equal. Some persons traveling from the South were harassed and threatened. Many of them were white, but still we marched. We marched from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial with heavy police patrol. However, the patrolling proved to be unnecessary because the march was noted for its peacefulness. Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech was the last speech of the day. It was inspiring, but the day was very long. We all gathered around the mall to hear this speech for jobs and freedom. When he told the crowd of his dream, we all left fired up and ready to go back to our respective places to continue to fight for jobs, freedom, and even more. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were present on August the 28th, 1963, when Dr. Martin Luther King made his "I Have a Dream" speech, will you please stand so we can recognize you at this time? Thank you, and we are still fighting for jobs, justice, and freedom, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Thank you.
We are extremely honored to have the opportunity today, along with my wife, Patricia, and my daughter, Aisha, to participate in acknowledgement of this most significant time in our country's history, the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. I'm also here officially as a godson of Rosa Parks and past president of the Rosa Parks Institute in the continuing perpetuation of her legacy. On December 1st, as was previously mentioned in 1955, the law of the land, particularly in Montgomery, Alabama, was discrimination, separation of the races. And nothing exemplified that more than the practice of separating the races on the city bus system, where African Americans were required to enter the front of the bus, deposit their coin, depart the bus, and hopefully make it to the back before the doors closed and the bus departed, which happened frequently and sometime in inclement weather. When one was successful in being able to get back aboard the bus, the seating capacity of the buses at that time, a third of that was allocated for the black patrons in the back of the bus. Mrs. Parks had rightfully taken a seat and was approached by a white gentleman who had transitioned through the white section, and there were no seats, and asked her or demanded that she get up and give up her seat. Well, that particular day, the Lord was working in her life. And that act of defiance led to what we now refer to as a modern civil rights movement in America, because she defiantly refused to get up. She was evicted from the bus and subsequently arrested. And that began a 381-day of protests in the city, the spokesperson for which was Dr. Martin Luther King. Our godmother was inspired to, not knowing and had no predetermined disposition about it, but most people who become legacies in our country are inspired to do so by, we think, divine intervention. She was, because of the threats, constant threats on her life and her husband, she moved to Detroit, Michigan in 1965 and became congressional staff member for John Conyers. And 10 years later formed what is now the Rosa Parks Institute of America, which I was proud to serve as president for 10 years. Some of the most notable awards for my godmother, two of the highest honors that the company can bestow upon a U.S. citizens, were awarded to Mrs. Sparks. They were the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1966 and the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal of Honor, which we have with us today to put on display, in 1999. Other awards are the Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent Peace Prize in 1980, the Eleanor Roosevelt Woman of Courage Award, and the Medal of Honor awarded during the 100th birthday celebration of the Statue of Liberty. My godmother was called home to glory on Monday, October 24th, 2005. We had the opportunity and the honor of having 3 memorial services throughout the country, in Montgomery, and a final resting place in Detroit. But perhaps the most significant one was by unanimous vote of Congress. She was the first African American to lie in state in the rotunda in the Capitol of the United States Congress. Last year in 2013, President Obama invited us to the White House and to the Washington, D.C. on February 27, 2013 for the dedication of the Rosa Parks statue in Statuary Hall, and the first Afro-American to receive such an honor. It is consistent with that legacy and the attributes that she displayed in defense of human rights, not only civil rights in America, that we have an opportunity today to present to the museum a very special portrait. In 1995, my godmother granted me permission to have this portrait painted. We have the only copies and the original, and so the recipients of this, it has to come from our family, so you won't see it hanging anywhere else. We would like to ask Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs to please come forward. And we also think that there is no better recipient to receive and deliver this to the museum than our mayor. So on behalf of the Institute and our family, we would like to present the Rosa Parks commemorative portrait. And the Congressional Gold Medal for display.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much. We will cherish this here. We will keep it here at the museum for all of history and all of the future, so that everyone who comes here never forgets the legacy of one woman, the mother of equality. Thank you so much.
What a blessing to have heard from the people that have graced this stage up here today. Not me, of course, the others. But wow, the stories and the passion and the depth and the heart, very inspiring. On behalf of all of us at Full Sail University, the students, the graduates, the faculty, the staff, it's just such a privilege to be here with Mayor Jacobs, with members of the Civil Rights Committee, with all of you that are gathered here today to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And what a fitting place to be. It was said earlier, there's no place else I'd rather be this morning, and that holds true for me too. Mayor Jacobs' remarks were profound, poignant, right on track. Two things that the mayor said that registered with me is, she said, today we remember the struggles of 1964. And then a little later she said, we carry on the legacy of the legendary civil rights pioneers. And the reason these two phrases really stood out to me is because it speaks to why we're here today. We're here to remember and to commemorate the heroism and the faithfulness and the strong hearts that led this country down a correct road back in the 60s. And, not but we are also here today to remind each other that the work is never done, that we must all stand together, and that we is such an important word, that we must all carry forward this bright torch that was lit back then and keep it burning brightly today and into the future. At Full Sail, we serve a very diverse community of students and faculty, not just from the U.S., but from around the world. A few months ago, Orange County and the Orange County Regional History Center approached our students and said, we'd like you to create actually a total of 13 students and 3 faculty members, and these two bodies asked that they create an art piece to represent this 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so using various mediums and techniques, these 13 people, students and 3 faculty members, created a mural featuring Martin Luther King Jr. and Eatonville's own Zora Neale Hurston. And they chose these 2 particular people to build the mural around because they are such pivotal and important figures, not just for Florida, Central Florida and Florida, but for the country at large. These 2 individuals represent so much about the civil rights movement. Our hope, at all of us at Full Sail, hope that this mural serves as a symbol for our community and continues to inspire the ever-present possibility of positive change. And so now, Mayor Jacobs, members of the Civil Rights Committee, if you would come up on stage with me, we will unveil the mural created by our students.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.